We're going to get started on our first panel about incorporating healthy local food in healthcare. And this panel will present two different perspectives from the purchasing side of the farm to healthcare process. We have Seth Bostick, the executive chef at Kalispell Regional Medical Center, and he will be describing how he's worked with Thomas Cuisine Management to procure healthy and local foods for the hospital's patients and staff. And then we also have Emily McKey, is a dietitian at Village Healthcare in Missoula, and she'll be speaking to the specific needs and opportunities for serving local fresh food in the setting of a skilled nursing facility.
I first wanted to just say thank you again to MCAT and Katie for putting this conference on. I think it is just such a fantastic opportunity for those of us in healthcare and to be able to connect with the local growers and all the people that help make this happen. I'm really excited about it. I came to the conference 2 years ago, and it was really exciting to be in a room full of people that kind of connected my past and my present. If you'll see in my bio, I got my bachelor's degree at the University of California, Santa Cruz, where I majored in agroecology. And that's where I really became interested in healthy foods, and that's what led me on to getting my master's degree in nutrition years later, where I thought I was going to be out working with healthy foods, trying to help patients get well. And only to find, never having been in a hospital, only to find that hospitals really didn't serve particularly healthy food. So it's so exciting to come to this place where we're actually, there's this wave, this movement toward healthy foods in healthcare. So I was talking to Katie several months ago about just kind of facilitating more connections in our local community, trying to get more kind of access to more growers in our area to try to connect with getting more food into our skilled nursing facility. And I was saying, it really would be nice if the focus of the conference could be more farm to institution, really in a broader sense, because there's so many certain school systems who are making this transition, as well as skilled nursing facilities. And so she asked me to come and present kind of from the perspective of a skilled nursing facility. Our rules and regulations are a little bit different in skilled nursing facilities. We call them SNFs for short, so that's how I'll refer to it. It's a little bit less of a mouthful. Skilled nursing facilities, actually, is there anybody else in the room who works in a skilled nursing facility here? 2, okay, all right. And Gwen actually works in a building in Billings that our corporation, the Goodman Group, owns as well. They own several buildings in Montana. So Gwen is the dietary manager there. And then I'm happy to see one other person here too. I think that the movement toward farm to table has been a little bit slower. I mean, I know it's been a little bit slower in the skilled nursing facility setting. We have different regulations than hospitals have. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that people live in our buildings long term. We are what used to be known as nursing homes. Things have changed over time so that we don't just have people who are there as long-term residents, but also a huge piece of our clientele are people who are there to rehab. So they leave the hospital, they come to us for skilled therapies like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then we transition them home to the community. So that's kind of a new look to the old nursing homes. A little bit more of a dynamic population, which makes it a lot of fun. So that it's not just people who are there at the very end of their lives. It's kind of a mix of different ages and different energy levels, so that makes it fun. So I did just a little tiny bit of research and found that Montana has 82 SNFs with the capacity for 6,700 patients, or residents as we call them. This equates to over 20,000 meals every day. 20,000 meals a day, so it's a huge, huge market out there. So hopefully the next time there's a conference here, we'll have lots of people here from SNFs, because I think that more and more the movement of the farm to table is going to be moving into the skilled nursing facility setting, as well as the assisted living facility setting, or ALFs as we call them. Our corporation, the Goodman Group, also owns 2 of those in the state. They really are, the population is aging, as Allison pointed out. I mean, we're just going to have more and more of this need happening both in the state and others. Gwen and I are lucky enough to work for a corporation that is really supporting this farm-to-table movement. They own facilities all around the country, and they're really pushing for us to move toward more sustainable products in our buildings. They really want us to start working with local growers, producers, more toward providing organic products. So that's really exciting. A lot of the buildings aren't going to necessarily have ownership that's so supportive, but we do. And partially it's because I've been really interested in it. Gwen's been really interested in it, and so we've started to kind of do it on our own. And they came up with a corporate-wide mandate to move in this direction, and they're using our state here as a model now because we've started to make that effort. So anyway, once again, great to connect with people in this room. We need all the help we can get. So it's not an easy process to make the change. So some of the differences between SNFs and hospitals, we have set menus. We use 2 5-week cycles through the year. They're seasonal. We're actually moving to change those menus, but right now that's what we're using. And according to state and federal guidelines, we have to provide 100% of the daily, I always forget, the DRIs, the dietary reference intakes. And all that means is that's what, those are the guidelines for all the micro and macronutrients. So we have those guidelines that we have to follow. So every single menu that we make has to be run through either a dietitian, has to do it by hand, or now we have software that does it, thankfully. We run it through a software program and make sure it meets 100% of requirements for zinc, folate, unsaturated fat, protein, whatever it is. So we have to make sure that our menus meet those requirements. We are not as flexible as the hospitals are with their menus. We can make some substitutions to our menu, and the dietitian in the building has to sign off on them. But we really have to have set menus that we can, when the state survey comes in like they are right now at our building in Missoula, we have to be able to pull our menus out, we have to be able to pull our nutrition analysis out and show them exactly what we're providing in terms of meeting 100% of the estimated needs for the individuals who live there. So we don't have the same flexibility, but the good news is, for people who are going to be growing for us, is that we can project a year ahead and we can tell you, look, this is our menu, this is what our needs are going to be. So, I think that the SNFs are just a terrific market that's really been untapped in terms of connecting with local providers. We, the Goodman Group particularly, were eager to start making some connections and set up some contracts with local growers. We need to have that reassurance that we can have certain amounts of food, and if it can't be provided, can we get some sort of an equivalent substitution? We can always do that as well. But I think it's just a really great opportunity for local producers to start tapping into that SNF resource as well as the assisted living buildings. That's just a whole lot of meals that need a lot of food produced, and why bring it in from other states and other countries when we can produce it right here, which I know, as Jesse and Allison were talking about, there's so much we can do here in Montana. So some of the things that we need in terms of kind of what we're looking for from the local growers to make it feasible for us to use the local products, a lot of them do overlap with the hospitals and what you already heard this morning. Talking to our state surveying team, they're the ones who scrutinize us the most closely in our SNF buildings. Sounds a lot like what Jesse ran into. Very broad guidelines. We have to have approved vendors, and that is as far as we're told we need. So I think it's more like Ron was saying to me earlier, it's really more the local sanitarians who are going to have the specific guidelines for us. But the state, when I talked to them, they said, we love the idea of local, sustainable, we love all that, we love the idea of using fresh foods. Just make sure you're documenting what vendors you're using. And, from their perspective, again, I think this is pretty new. I mean, people local SNFs just aren't really doing this. We've been doing it a little bit kind of under the radar. You know, we haven't been telling anybody we're doing it, we're just doing it. And so when I called to talk to them, they didn't really have an answer for me. Can we do this? You know, what do I need to do? You tell me what I need to do so I can do it, because this is what we're going to start, you know, bringing them into our building. And so they said, well, you know, it would be great if you used certified organic, food from certified organic farms. And I think the only reason they said that is because it's a list of requirements that they can follow. You know, it means that somebody is kind of overseeing what the practices are. From our perspective, as buyers, we just want to see what your growing practices are. You don't have to be certified, but if we can just see in a contract, these are the growing principles we follow. You know, we don't use organic fertilizers and pesticides, whatever it is. That's really more what we're looking for. So anyway, so that's kind of from our perspective in terms of being able to purchase. The question earlier to Jesse in terms of the liability insurance, at least in terms of our corporation, we don't require that. The state doesn't have those sorts of requirements. Let's see. Oh, the other thing that I would be interested in, we do have some flexibility in menus, and I'm sure there are foods out there that can be grown in Montana that maybe we're not aware of, or we're not familiar with eating all the time, and we'd love to use more of those. You know, if people want to approach us, or hopefully other SNFs as well, and say, hey, you know, we have an abundance of, you know, kohlrabi, whatever it is, and these are ways you can prepare it. It's really great stuff. Do you want to try some? We would certainly I would be very open to that. I think it would be really fun to incorporate some new foods. We can't do it like tomorrow. If you bring it on Monday, we can't use it on Wednesday, but if you bring it to us now and say next year we can produce this for you, we can do that. So we need to think potentially a little further ahead maybe than the hospitals, just because we do have to follow this set menu system that needs to be run through the whole nutrition analysis, basically. So I think, let's see. So again, some of the ways I think that contracting with the SNF facilities can be really beneficial to the local growers is that we are a very predictable market. We're very stable. You know, we're here to stay. We're growing in terms of just the geriatric population and the needs. You know, we do have to provide 3 meals a day for our people. That's not going to change. You know, we can project the amounts of food that we're going to need way ahead, you know, at least a year ahead. And, you know, we're very willing to contract with people, you know, potentially even providing a certain amount of funding up ahead, maybe the way CSAs do in terms of helping with the startup costs. And again, we're willing to try different things. We're not set on just the, you know, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. We can do different things, but we just need to know what they are so that we can then kind of put them into play into our menus. So that's kind of an overview of SNFs and what our needs are. Again, I really hope that some of your new growers will come up. And we did work last year with Dave from the Montana Food Co-op, and that was fantastic. We kind of fell off the wagon, Dave, I know. But, you know, again, I think, you know, the more that, you know, we can make these connections and really, you know, ordering, making sure that we can get deliveries, that's all really important as well. But I think, you know, just to kind of start talking about some specifics, we're very, very open to starting using the products, but it's just, as Jesse said, you know, take that first step, which we have taken the first and probably the second, but we haven't moved beyond the second. So we're, you know, very open to doing that, and hopefully you all can start tapping more into that SNF facility as a resource. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Seth now and let him talk a little bit about what he's doing, and then any questions you all have at the end.
Good morning. We're going to talk a little bit today about some local and sustainable purchasing. This is going to be a presentation that I just gave down in Utah for our corporation that I work for, Thomas Cuisine Management. There was 250 RDs, chefs, and directors. So we were talking a little bit about marketing. And we were talking about how we were going to get this product to our guests so we could provide it as well as sell it. Part of the issues that we were coming across is how do we stop saying local, organic, sustainable, this specific farm, and not have a paragraph for everything that we want to sell? So we had to start working out electronic insignias. We started working into name recognition via using initials. So it takes a little bit of time. So part of what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to show you in this presentation, is what I showed them, and it's what I need to get from you as a producer to us, so I can market your material. I love fresh food. I live by it. I cook it at home. My liability insurance for myself is $8. I will go ahead and pull it out of the garden out front. I'll pull it out of the garden next door. I don't really care. But I work for a skilled nursing facility as well as a hospital. They very much do care. And they will sit down at me and they're going to pull out their wallet and they're going to put it on the table. Now I got to figure out how they're going to open it. So I need to be able to give them something. I need to be able to tell them, hey, not only is this food healthy, nutrient dense from the local source, but you're also safe and poor. Because my award-winning smile is not going to keep them from hemorrhaging millions of dollars if somebody gets sick, let alone a population. So when we're looking at, when I talk about a population of what we have in our hospitals or our skilled nursing facilities, these folks are coming to us and they're already compromised. They're sick or ill in some way, shape, or form. It's a very small population that come to us that are either having babies or they're for simple day surgeries. A lot of them are there and they're there for multiple days. And they're there for a reason. So when we look at it from a lawyer standpoint, they absolutely need to have this. So somebody asked earlier about having a food check and distributors. Hey, that's a big deal. I can't really do business without it. And I have a large size facility. I have 80 to 90 employees on any given day. I serve on anywhere from 12 to 1,800 meals per day. Upwards of $1 million per year. My purchasing last year alone was just about $2 million. So I mean, there's a considerable amount of dollars going through, and so there's going to be a lot of liability steps that need to be taken care of. So I need to understand that we also have to have that legal standpoint covered, as well as I need marketing material so I can get your product out there. The reason I need that marketing material is because if I'm going to go to a room full of accountants and say, hey, I want you to give me $500,000 next year so I can buy local sustainable products, they're going to say, well, why is that profitable to us? Who's going to buy it and what's going to make it marketable? So part of what I need from you guys is I need to be able to get that on a regular basis and be delivered on time. I don't necessarily need it to be at a certain process point. As a chef, I'll figure that out. And I'll figure out what I can and cannot bring in versus spoilage rates and all that. That's stuff that I'll do. What I need from you guys is I need you to bring me a product that, one, has got a reasonable price markup to it. So I can't pay full retail price. So if we're talking about taking food to the farmer's market, that's going to be very difficult for me to be able to purchase that throughout the year and be able to sell that also to an accountant that says, well, why would we buy it at this rate when you can buy it here commercially from U.S. Foods or Cisco at this rate? It's 300% more. So I need to figure out, okay, if I'm going to buy this, I'll buy this much from you throughout this year. But I need you to work on a price with it. So we need to sit down at the table and say, okay, I'm going to contract a certain amount of weight throughout the year, and I will guarantee that purchase. Like she said, we're stable. We're not going anywhere. Kalispell Regional Hospital has been there for a lot of years, and it's going to be there for a lot more. And it's seen a lot of me come and go. But I can tell you right now that we are challenged and charged within the industry, within trends, and by the corporation that I work for to buy as much local, organic, sustainable product as humanly possible. They're telling me to do this. So my challenge is to figure out how I can do that without hemorrhaging money. So I need to, I guess I could best just say this. I would rather have a small cut on my finger and bleed a little bit rather than slit my wrist and just have it gush out of my body. So I need to figure that out. And what I need you guys to do as producers is to be able to help me out with it. So I need you to come in. Dave came in probably 4 years ago from Growers Co-op and sat down with me and we looked at prices. Over the years, I've slowly but surely increased because his prices are not only fair, but they're stable. And they stay the same. And so I can take that number and I can say, okay, this number is specific. It doesn't change. There's no variance to it. And I can take that to an accountant and he says, okay, now I understand. But if I take it to him and I say seasonally it's available for green beans in June are going to be this price, but in August they're going to be this price, they don't understand. And they won't give me enough money. So we need to figure out something where we can say, I'm going to be able to get something at a direct cost and it's going to stay that way from year to year. Now we understand that there's going to be percentage increases due to inflation every year, things cost a little more. get. But what I need is I need something that's not going to keep cost all the time. I'll spend a lot of money. I'll pay a lot of your bills. But I also need to have you guys help me out by giving me a little bit of a better price as well. So that does matter. But basically what we're going to get at here is marketing tools. We started talking about what we were buying and why we were buying it. So my main source of this, and this is all signage that I put up around the property, and I put it up in a lot of different places. Essentially, you can't walk into one of our retail establishments and not see anywhere less than at least 5 points of sale that just talk about local and sustainable. Nothing specific to individual farms, but just as a whole and why. So within those menus, I also will put in your names. I will also put in your marketable sources, your pictures, the insignias in which you provided to me, to use that so I can use less words to market your product. Because right now, I don't really get a whole lot of variance in how much I can charge. The hospital dictates that to me. They say, you have a certain price point and we want to be able to sell it to our client, our guest, our employee at this point, because they're going to subsidize it and they're going to take whatever cost variance it is between how much it costs me to make it and how much I make from that product. So like we were talking earlier about meal equivalents. I open up the door, I automatically lose them. The minute that those lights turn on, so my job is to figure out how to lose the least amount. So in doing so, and we're trying to hang out with this local and sustainable, which we're able to support, I need to figure that out. So by doing so, I need to get people to buy more of my stuff. So by getting them to buy more of my stuff, I promote your product because your farms promote local sustainable. People know who you are. So each area is going to be kind of unique to itself. So Livingston has a certain standard and set of farms that it goes through. And same thing with me. The reason I use the farms from the region that I'm within is because people drive on them. People see them at their farmers market. People see them offered at the grocery store and they know what they are. That doesn't do me a whole lot of good to offer an organic, sustainable farm for Wyoming because nobody knows what it is. I can tell them, hey, it's fantastic. But again, they have to trust that I'm telling them something that's good. If they can't see me and I can't sell it to them, how do I give that to them? They need to be able to know it by name recognition and know who you are. So it's very important. So as we're looking into our local and sustainable products, these are the type of things, and these are the main points that I want to hit on. I want to produce great food. I want to create an enduring relationship, not only between my client, but also between the guest that's going to purchase this. So by client, I mean the person who owns the hospital or the person who governs it. So I need to be able to get in there and I need to be able to make sure that they understand that I am being fiscally responsible and spending their money the best way so we can get not only fresh organic products, that it be nutrient dense, and it also be marketable to the people that work for me. Because 80% of the people who buy my food are also people that work for the hospital. And then there are also the ones that come in and buy the food tend to also be some of the most local parts of our community. By email, by name, by the face in the hallway. They're the ones that are going to go back to our client and say, man, I had a great plate of food today, and I got this wonderful kale that was in the south that was produced from this farm, and man, I really felt like I got a great deal of thanks. If I can't do that, then they were more than happy to also go up and say, I worked real hard for you, and I just had the most awful thing put in my mouth. I don't want to go back. So I need to be able to make sure that I get choice A coming out of their mouth, and choice B. So the last part of this is a genuine service, which is what I have right here. Client participation. I need to know, and this lady right here comes in every single day. She no longer looks at the menu. She just comes in and goes directly to that same person because she gets some genuine service. She gets a smile, she gets a handshake, she gets understanding that she knows that whatever this girl is making, her name is Crystal, by the way, is that she's going to have a great meal that day. And that's what I need from the farms, from my ranchers. I need you to come into my facility. I need to meet you. I need to understand what you're making. I need to understand why you're growing it in this fashion. I need to understand what your fertilizers are, because she's going to ask me. And if I stand in front of her and say, I don't know, well then why am I going to ask her to trust me to give her a great meal every day and to not look at all the things that are around her, to distract her, to go back to a commercially viable product that has tons of different pesticides or herbicides used within its growing procedure, or whether it be a processed food that has a whole bunch of things that we don't want to put into our body. Because the end run of this is, I want to be able to have a non-processed food with the least amount of sodium, the most amount of flavor, the highest amount of nutrients grown right here within the state. That's my goal. So I need to be able to create that with a handshake, and a smile, and trust. That means something. So come and see me. Come and send me an email. Figure out how we're going to get to meet, so then I can ask these questions of you, so then in turn I can create that relationship with you. So in producing great food, I already know that I'm going to be able to buy your products and make awesome stuff. Yes, ma'am. All right, so I get a little chatty. So I can look at all the foods that I'm going to get from you guys, and I already know how to market. That's been my job. That's what I've done for 25 years. Is I figured out how to take food from a raw stance and turn it into something that looks great. Everything that you see right here, aside from, I think it's all produced right here, and this is all within Bitterroot. Most of this I got from David Burrow's Co-op, or I got from a butcher. That's some natural pork. We got the pumpkin seeds, and those are some fine cherries over the top. This is something that I serve to our clients a lot in the fall, and it's a part of our menus. And that's the stuff that we have here. But I can't market it if you don't tell me what you're going to be able to give me, and give me a way to do it easy. Enduring relationships, this is another part, and so we were looking at skilled facilities, we were talking about some rehab earlier. This is an herb garden that I have out in front of our coffee shop. I have a second one that we have in our skilled nursing facility. We talked a little bit about labor, and how are we going to be able to process this stuff? Well, I have 110 beds with residents that really have not much to do during the day, but watch a little TV and sleep a lot. So how do I get them outside? I put an herb garden outside. I grow kales. I grow every single herb that I need to operate within my facility. And they go out and they weed it for me, they garden it for me, they cut it down. At the end of the season, we have an abundance of it. We put sheets out, and we put it on top, and then we grind it in the summer. Right now, I'm still currently using all of this product. It's also stuff that I have to subsidize, because then now I've introduced it to my population, well now they want it. So then I go and I find Dave out there. And Dave has farms around here that produce all this stuff. And within your area of where you're buying your products, you're going to have a food shed that's also going to have a farm that produces herbs. So you need to find a way that if you're going to do this yourself, you also need to find a way to have it in the off season. And you're also going to have to purchase some of that from a larger purveyor come January, February, and March, when it's really hard to find anything growing in the Northwest. So the enduring relationships I was talking about was about the marketing materials. I need to have some electronic stuff. I need to be able to put your name all over the menus. There is not one menu throughout our hospital, and there are 10 different menus that circulate. All of them have different insignias on them. All of them have pieces of information that talk about why we're doing this. What are the type of relationships that we have between our foods? Does a green food fall within the category of 700 calories, 10%? What's a yellow food? What's a red food? We market everything we can to make certain that there's enough insignia out there that people can use their eyes by looking at pictures. It's the closest thing that we have, because we can't possibly speak to it all. So the next piece is, I'm looking at what I use. I look at produce, I look at proteins, grains, bakery items, local items. And each one of the users have provided me with something that I can place on a menu that looks like that. That's a picture that tells me what I'm selling to my guests. So my guests can walk in and they can have visual recognition. What's next to that menu item, instead of me having to say Sweet Peaks ice cream every time I use it. And I'm going to put SPI, nobody knows what that stands for. So if I have a sign in my shop that says all of our ice creams are provided by Sweet Peaks, or if I say all of our breads are produced from Series Bakery, then I can put that on the back wall, I can show it, and then as well as next to the menu item, I can put their picture without having to say produced from Series Bakery within the item. If it's longer than a sentence, I cannot sell it. It doesn't work. People get tired of reading it every single day. Remember, our clientele is repeat clientele. 80% of my business comes from the same people every day. So I need something that's going to be quick and easy for access. So if you don't have it, get it. Get it made. It's simple. It's not that expensive. Once it's done, then you're able to push it out every single day to us. That's very important to me. So make sure that you have a limited liability insurance company. If you don't, get a small one and then go through a food check. They have a large one. And then they can also figure out how you're going to get it distributed to them. I want to spend money. I have a whole bunch of them. That's my job. I have 60 different hospitals that I'm here representing throughout the Northwest. We have skilled nursing facilities, we have hospitals, we have immediate care facilities, across the board. We all want to buy more local stuff. We've been told to. All I need you to do is bring me something that I can market it for. If I can do that, I'm a chef. I have chefs on my team. They'll make it taste good. If it doesn't already taste good on its own, then we'll figure out how to dry it out, preserve it, sauce it up, and then get your product to us and make it so it's even usable. And that's it in a nutshell. Stop shop all at once.
If you buy beef, do you use the entire animal, or do you do something different with the special cuts? T-bones as an example.
Sure. So we have a marketable source for a considerable amount of our product that we use within hospitals, especially within cattle beef, is going to be ground beef. Mainly because you can plug it into a whole bunch of different things. So when you're able to do that, I'm able to buy whatever, sort of cuts that you have been able to market, and then we know that you're going to elevate the price a little bit, and we've compensated for that. So probably 80% of my purchases are going to be within ground beef, and most of the hospitals that I know of use that. I also sell New York steak. I also sell a ribeye. I bring in flat irons and trim them down. Each facility is going to have a certain amount of marketable skill that they have to them, that they're able to process these meats. So as long as you're able to give us those cuts and know that we can't afford a premium cut and pay $13 a pound for some nice, grass-fed tenderloin, I dig it. It's awesome. I would feed it to my family and my client all day long if I could, but they don't give me enough money to do that. So there's a certain amount of those cuts, so if you want to be able to save those cuts and market them and use them in the grocery stores or at the farmer's market, I'll send your kid to college and sell me all the ground beef you can. And I'll be your sustainable purchase that will be there every single week. And our checks don't bounce. And you don't have to go up. And you know that if you show up at my back door with 800 pounds of ground beef every month, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it all. So that's what I can use. So when I can use your specialty cuts, what I'll do is I'll tell you, what I do with the rancher that I go through is I tell them a month in advance. Because I'm already planning for next season. What I'm doing right now, I'd already planned on in May. So I already talked to them in July and said, okay, when you're doing your kills this fall, I need you to reserve me this many New Yorks, this many ribeyes, this many tenderloins, and these are the menus that I'm going to use them for. We don't fly by the seat of our pants, we can't afford to.
One of the problems in Montana is the lack of slaughter facilities for animals. And so if you were buying from a farmer, it would need to be state inspected. And what about the USDA inspection as well?
100% of the meat and protein-based products that come through our door have got to be USDA inspected through a federal house. So there is one in Butte that I go through a lot of, and then that's about the only one that I've used. I believe there's one up in Lower Valley Meats has a USDA inspector in it, but they have to have somebody that either comes by or is on the property for us to be able to bring it through our door. And that's a requirement that not only Thomas Cuisine has, but the hospital that I work for as well. And each place is unique. And each facility may have a different criterion in which they operate with, which that is an excellent question, and that's how I would get myself through the door, or that's one of the first things I ask. How is your product treated from the farm to my table? Because I have to know that process to be able to understand and to be able to stand up against. So, depending on how I do it. Yes, sir.
How does your buying strategy change in the winter, say when there isn't as much locally grown produce? How do you shift your buying patterns around?
The way I shift my buying pattern is no matter how we look at it, there's only a few states within this nation that have 100% growing availability all year long. And we are nowhere near any of those. So part of what has to happen is that there has to be some understanding, and part of the availability for me, and this is how I market it through my accountants as well, I can't buy as much elevated cost organic natural produce in the wintertime as I do in the summertime. Virtually none. So what I can buy is sold to me by the large facilities, U.S. Foods, Cisco, Food Services of America. That also is kind of, it's how I wash the cost of the higher cost in the winter, or in the summer, versus the lower cost in the winter. Am I getting the great tomatoes? No, man. To be honest with you, they're white in the middle and they suck. I hate having to give them to my client. But we're buying them for 5 months, and when I can get the great ones in the summertime and pay a 300% markup on them, because that's really what it cost for me to buy a local tomato, was almost 3 times the cost. But it's awesome, and it's ripe and ripe, and it has the highest amount of vitamins that I can possibly want. And that's what I want to give to our client, and that's what our client wants to spend their money on as well. So in the wintertime when I can't buy it, when it's not available, it would be hard for me to buy as much as I do if I didn't have those months through those larger commodity buyers to wash the cost and to kind of equip maybe people across the board. So that's how I go about it. Again, if you're in California, it's a much different thing because you have that available to you. But here in Montana or within the Northwest, that's a lot of what we deal with. Gentleman in the back.
You mentioned that the corporation for which you work encourages you to source your foods locally.
Correct.
Now that corporate decision is probably not driven by their bottom line, as many corporate decisions are. So tell us what you think that corporation's incentive, why do they do that?
The incentive of the corporation that I work for, and the reason why I work for the people that I do, is that we are a capitalist company. We do want to make money. I mean, the whole idea is that, we can't generate income to support our families. But the interest of generating income isn't so much that they generate the most income. The beauty of who I work for is that they want to support local, sustainable, natural, non-refined foods, unprocessed, get rid of all the sodas, the sugars, the Twinkies on the market. When you walk into any of our retail establishments, you may find a few of those items because they do sell. You will find bag chips, but you're going to find 80 other things in front of them that are either from a sustainable or natural process before you can find. You have to dig to find the processed food in our facilities. That is the beauty of the company within which I work for. That doesn't mean that there are others out there like us. There are lots of other contract businesses that run healthcare facilities that do not have the same business model. The business model that we operate within is unique to our company, and we know that it's going to cost us more. I specifically spend a lot of our company's money. So much that sometimes I have to answer for it in a not so comfortable situation. But that's how important it is to me, and the vision of using local, sustainable, and natural process is. So do I work for somebody that promotes it? Yes. Are there other companies out there, some of our competitors like Aramark and Sodexo? They may have a different model. I'm certain that they do, and how much money they're allowed to spend. I've been given upwards of 25% of our income, or part of my spending, is able to go to a local sustainable. So now I got to figure out how to take that number, and I got to plug it into the most responsible so I can get the most bang for my buck. Usually what that revolves around is grains that I can get throughout the year. That involves using legumes, which are a big thing here within the state as well. So all of our lentils and peas all come from within the state. All the wheats that we use, the local bakery that I use. I buy flour from Montana Flour and Grain. I also buy all my peas and lentils from them. They ship me pallets of it, and then I split the shipping cost of that pallet with them. And then in turn, they also get their flour shipped in that way. So we kind of cut out the middleman. We don't have to have somebody else distribute it to us and then pay them as well. So we figured out how to get a local chain set up between those guys. So it's how I take that amount of money that they've given to me, and then I have to figure out how I'm going to be able to spend that responsibly. So they figured out how much they're willing to let go. And most places have that figured out already. Because this is a national trend. It is in every single magazine that we get that is sent to us. Local, sustainable first. It is in everything. It is the biggest thing out there right now. Every corporation is being pushed for this.
I have a question about cooking and buying food, the food locally, and then in the winter time, buying it through Cisco. So, for example, buying tomatoes in December, January, they're not good, as you said. Is there a way that your company would consider buying processed tomatoes from Montana Road instead of using?
We do use some processed tomatoes, but I dare you to put a stewed tomato on somebody's sandwich and tell me how
No, but you sticking with cooking food seasonally instead of offering tomatoes in December.
Sure.
Change the
So have we
menus
changed our
direction.
menus to reflect what's available? Absolutely.
Right, would
So-
your company consider doing something like that?
Not only do we consider it, but we do it and have been doing it for a number of years now. So where some folks run on cycles, and when we talk about a cycle menu, what we're talking about is a menu that repeats itself. So she says she has 2 5-week cycles. That means for 6 months in a row, she has a menu that runs 5 weeks in a row and then repeats itself, and then repeats itself. And then in the wintertime, there's another cycle menu that does the same thing, runs 5 weeks in a row. We run pseudo cycles. So what that means is that we know that everybody is going to buy local and sustainable. So we know that they're going to have a certain amount of items that are available to them in everybody's growing period, because we operate facilities from Northern California through Washington, Nevada, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Everybody has longer growing seasons, especially I have one of the shortest up here. All of our menus reflect what's available at that time. Do I have more casserole and hot pot type dishes in the wintertime than I do in the summertime, so I can use the local processed foods that they've stored for us and put in the freezers? Absolutely. And that's something that as the chef and as the facility director, I understood that you have to change more. There is more work involved in this. So part of what we're asking is you to come through our door and give us a good price. Well, we're also going to give you the guarantee that we're going to not only take the things that are available fresh, but if you have an overrun and you need to process it, we're also going to be able to change our menus, and that's a guarantee that I personally, Seth Bostick, will give to you. I'll walk to your door, and then if I'm going to ask you to come to me, well, I'm also going to do the same. So you have to have a guarantee from that facility. So once I open the door and I bring you in and I say, hey, I'm going to put your kid through college and I'm going to buy all this ground beef, well, I better stick to it. Because if you can't trust in me, then it's not an equal shared relationship, and that's not okay. And that's something that's a value, and that's something that was taught to me. And that's something that the corporation that I work for also has. On the left.
Yeah, and last question, and then we'll
Okay.
It was very similar to that. Do you do any preservatives?
Yes, absolutely. So for instance, within this next week, we have what's called a pickle challenge. So every year we have whatever's available and what's sustainable, and we do monthly promotions. Part of what we're going to do with our products, and as you guys bring us products, is I need to be able to, one, promote them. I need to use the marketing tools that I spoke of. But I also need to market whatever is available during that season. And so right now it's squashes. So we're going to do a pickle week. So we're bringing in squashes, and what's a lot of things that people don't do with squashes at home normally is they don't pickle them. So one of the things that you find when you go down south is you're going to find pickled watermelon vines. Nobody knows what that is up here. So what do we have? We have pumpkins. People grow a lot of pumpkins or a lot of squash around here. Well, try pickling that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take products and we're going to find out what's seasonal. We're going to market it. We're going to market it in a unique way so I can stand out in front and say, hey, look at me. And that way I can get their attention so I can sell more of your stuff and get them to look at me and be interested and intrigued. So is there a piece of that where we have to educate? Absolutely not. Thank you.
Thank
What
you.
an awesome